All right, our plant biology photosynthesis experiments, we actually did two, and they both involved coleus plants. The leaves of coleus, which you can see have both red and green pigment. And we kept some in the sun. This last one was in the sun, and then some under a box for several days. There they are, wondering where the sunlight went. And so they were in the dark for several days. What did we do to these leaves? We took leaves off the plants and put them in a series of solutions and so forth. First we took the leaf and put it in boiling water. That removed the red pigment. Then we put it in boiling ethanol. That removed the green pigment. Then into iodine. What's iodine a test for? Starch. Iodine turns starch black or dark purple or black. And then a water solution to rinse off the iodine, and finally onto a glass plate. You can see a couple of those sitting right in front of me. I've actually done part of the experiment right here. You can see those glass plates right there. And so here's the water, not yet boiling. Here's the alcohol, not yet boiling. Here's the iodine, which is a test for what again? Starch. And here's the water. And so we had two experiments. First of all, light versus dark. Here's the coleus in the light. Here's the coleus in the dark. You can't see it, but here it is. We first worked with this plant right here. These other two we'll talk about a little bit later. And so, again, the leaves were dropped into, first of all, the boiling water. And you can see it boiling away. And you can certainly see the alcohol right over here boiling away. And so it boils for a time, then into the boiling ethanol, and the ethanol is removing the green, and when it comes out of the ethanol, the previously colorful coleus leaf is pretty much colorless. And then in the ethanol to test for starch, and then into the water. Well, what hypothesis could we have been testing? And so we came up with some in class. And so it involves light and dark and photosynthesis, starch production. I think our hypothesis was either that light is required for starch production or light is not required for starch production. Both of those would be equally valid hypotheses. And what were the results? Boom! Here are leaves that were in the light. Here's leaves that were in the dark. And so what did we conclude? Well, this is positive for starch. These are negative for starch. Yeah, we drew a conclusion. We certainly did. All right, and then the second experiment, after we drew our conclusion, involves sugar and no sugar. Here we have these two little setups right here. These are both little bowls underneath there. One was filled with sugar water, one with plain water, and little holes were punched in the top. Leaves were cut off the plant, and their little petioles stuck down through those holes into either the plain water or the sugar water. Here's one up close. Again, either water or sugar water. The leaves stayed there for several days in the dark. Both were in the dark. No light this time. The variable is either sugar water or just plain water, the presence or absence of sugar. And so here's one up very close, and the one it was in sugar. And so we went through the same procedure again, developed a hypothesis about sugar, photosynthesis, and starch production. And so what hypotheses we can come up with is that starch production is possible if sugar is provided. Starch production is not possible if sugar is provided. Maybe something like those hypotheses. And what were the results? Ta-da! When sugar was provided, wow, even in the dark, starch was produced. We know that starch is a complex carbohydrate. Without the sugar, in other words, in the plain water, no starch was produced. So we drew a conclusion for that. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was our photosynthesis experiment.